Imagine for a moment that the person you love suddenly looks at you not with the warmth you crave, but with indifference. You start to feel that subtle sting, that quiet disappointment that creeps in when affection feels conditional. What if I told you that the way to be respected in love isn't about grand gestures, constant attention, or bending yourself into someone else's expectations? What if the key to deep, lasting respect is actually in learning to hold your own, in understanding your value, and in quietly mastering the art of presence without desperation? In those first few moments, when you realize that love doesn't need to be forced or earned through performance, everything changes. The dynamic shifts. You stop chasing, and instead, you begin attracting not just attention, but genuine admiration and deep emotional connection. Respect in love isn't about proving yourself. It's about knowing yourself, and in knowing yourself, others can't help but recognize your worth. The truth is, trying too hard often backfires. It creates an energy of neediness, even when your intentions are pure, and neediness repels the very respect you're seeking. People are naturally drawn to confidence, emotional stability, and an aura of self-possession. When someone senses that you are centered in yourself, that you are capable of being fulfilled independently, your presence becomes magnetic. Respect, then, is not demanded. It is earned organically, silently, through consistency, self-awareness, and emotional integrity. To understand how this works in love, we have to dismantle the common misconceptions. Many believe that constant texting, over-the-top gifts, or relentless attention signals care, and while these acts may momentarily please, they rarely cultivate the deep respect that forms the foundation of enduring intimacy. The irony is that over-investment often triggers subtle withdrawal in the other person. They unconsciously perceive that your emotional balance depends on their validation, which subconsciously reduces the respect they feel for you. The way to counter this is not by manipulating behavior or playing games, but by cultivating internal security. The first step is self-respect. Without it, every interaction is colored by insecurity, doubt, and overcompensation. Self-respect manifests as clear boundaries, a refusal to tolerate disrespect, and the ability to walk away without drama. It's about understanding that your presence is valuable, and that love is a choice, not a necessity. This mindset is deeply attractive because it signals maturity, self-assurance, and emotional intelligence. Equally important is emotional consistency. People respect those who regulate their emotions, who don't overreact or swing wildly between attachment and withdrawal. Emotional intelligence allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. It communicates that your love is stable, reliable, and not contingent on constant reassurance. When you combine self-respect with emotional intelligence, a subtle transformation occurs in your interactions. You are no longer the person scrambling for attention or approval. Instead, you become someone whose presence is both grounding and energizing, someone whose attention feels earned because it is given freely, not out of fear or obligation. Another often overlooked aspect of being respected in love is the cultivation of personal interests and passions outside the relationship. When your life is rich, complex, and fulfilling independently, your partner doesn't feel like your world revolves entirely around them. This is magnetic because it demonstrates that you bring more to the relationship than just dependency or neediness. It creates a dynamic of admiration, because humans naturally respect those who are fully realized and self-sufficient. But cultivating independence doesn't mean withdrawing affection. It means balancing presence with personal fulfillment. Respectful love is a dance of connection and autonomy. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that you are whole on your own, and that love is an enhancement to your already full life, not a patch for emptiness. Communication then becomes another cornerstone. People respect those who can express themselves clearly, honestly, and calmly. Assertive communication demonstrates self-respect and prevents the subtle erosion of boundaries. It communicates that your feelings matter, your needs are valid, and you expect reciprocity. Conversely, passive or aggressive communication undermines respect because it either signals fear of confrontation or a lack of control. To truly embody respect and love without trying too hard, one must also master the art of selective vulnerability. Sharing your inner world judiciously, with depth and authenticity, creates intimacy, but over-sharing too soon can be counterproductive. The key is not to withhold out of fear, but to pace the unfolding of your inner self in a way that maintains intrigue, dignity, and self-possession. Another critical aspect is presence. Respect grows from the energy you carry, the way you hold yourself, and the subtle signals you send through body language, tone, and attention. Being fully present in interactions, listening actively, and responding with thoughtful consideration cultivates respect in a way words alone cannot. Ironically, trying too hard often manifests as over-talking, over-explaining, or over-performing, which disrupts presence. In contrast, those who embody quiet confidence, who speak when it matters and listen when it matters, project an aura of self-possession that commands admiration. Equally, respecting the other person's space and individuality is essential. People naturally respect those who honor their autonomy, who do not suffocate, micromanage, or impose, allowing room for the other person to breathe, to make decisions, and to grow independently fosters mutual respect. It communicates trust, patience, and emotional maturity. Cultivating respect also requires introspection. Reflect on your patterns of attachment, on areas where you may unconsciously seek validation, or where fear drives over investment. Awareness is transformative because it allows you to break cycles that undermine your dignity and presence. Self-awareness in love isn't merely about recognizing your flaws. It's about understanding your value, the unique energy you bring to a relationship, and how to project it consistently without desperation. Finally, understand that respect is cumulative and often quiet. It's rarely an immediate reaction. It builds over time through repeated patterns of integrity, consistency, emotional regulation, and self-possession. This is why trying too hard is counterproductive. It often attempts to accelerate a process that requires patience, subtlety, and depth. Being respected in love is less about the intensity of your efforts and more about the integrity and quality of your presence. It is cultivated in the silent ways you hold yourself, the steadiness of your emotions, the clarity of your communication, and the richness of your independent life. When these elements align, respect flows naturally, effortlessly, and sustainably. People not only love you, they admire you, value your space and presence, and honor your boundaries, creating a profound, balanced intimacy that is both magnetic and deeply fulfilling. This is the art of being respected in love without trying too hard. It is self-mastery, emotional intelligence, and quiet confidence woven seamlessly into every interaction. Now that you understand the foundational principles, self-respect, emotional consistency, presence, and independence, the next step is translating these concepts into everyday behaviors that naturally cultivate respect without effort. In practical terms, being respected in love involves a delicate balance of attention and restraint, closeness and space, vulnerability and dignity. One of the most misunderstood aspects of love is the idea that constant affirmation, over-communication, or over-availability deepens connection. In reality, these behaviors often create dependency rather than admiration. To cultivate respect, you must first recognize that your energy is finite and precious. This means you don't give it away indiscriminately or in ways that compromise your integrity. For example, if a partner repeatedly cancels plans, ignores boundaries, or fails to acknowledge your efforts, responding with frustration, desperation, or overcompensation diminishes your perceived value. Instead, responding calmly, maintaining your schedule, and demonstrating that your life is fulfilling regardless of their behavior signals that your presence is a choice, not a need. This subtle shift changes the dynamic entirely. Respect is drawn toward those who are grounded, self-assured, and emotionally balanced. Another powerful tool is the art of listening without immediately reacting or seeking to solve. Many people, in an effort to be loved or appreciated, jump into problem solving or over-explaining their perspective. While helpful in moderation, over-involvement can create the impression of neediness or lack of emotional control. Being an active, attentive listener communicates presence, empathy, and emotional maturity. When you respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively, you demonstrate that your attention is valuable and intentional, reinforcing the other person's respect for you. Equally important is the balance of giving and receiving. Respect is a reflection of equitable emotional investment. People are drawn to those who give from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. This doesn't mean withholding affection or withholding love, but rather cultivating a sense that your generosity comes naturally without expectation of immediate return. When your love flows from a secure and centered self, it feels magnetic, not needy. In contrast, love that is transactional, anxious, or contingent often erodes respect over time. Setting and maintaining clear boundaries is another cornerstone of respected love. Boundaries aren't walls. They are statements of self-worth. They communicate that your needs, time, and values are non-negotiable. When enforced consistently and calmly, boundaries teach others how to treat you. Conversely, weak or inconsistent boundaries invite disrespect, overstepping, and a subtle imbalance in the relationship. People intuitively recognize and respect those who value themselves enough to insist on integrity, consistency, and fairness. Understanding the subtle rhythm of presence and absence is also essential. Absence, in the right measure, creates space for desire and admiration to flourish. This is not manipulation. It is simply honoring that both partners must maintain independent lives for a healthy dynamic. Over-availability communicates that your emotional world is entirely contingent on the other person, which undermines respect. A measured presence, where you show up fully when engaged but retain a rich personal life, signals self-possession and independence. In parallel, cultivating mystery and depth fosters intrigue and admiration. When a person reveals themselves too quickly, too fully, or too frequently, the natural rhythm of curiosity, admiration, and emotional investment can dissipate. Thoughtful pacing, layered self-expression, and selective vulnerability maintain engagement and respect, allowing intimacy to deepen organically. Another subtle but powerful aspect is how you handle conflict. People respect those who remain composed, articulate, and fair during disagreements. Overreacting, yelling, or resorting to passive-aggressive behavior diminishes respect and creates tension. Responding calmly, stating your position clearly, and listening to the other person's perspective demonstrates that you value both your own integrity and theirs. Respect thrives in relationships where both partners feel safe, heard, and acknowledged without fear of emotional volatility. Cultivating shared experiences and mutual growth also strengthens respect. Partners naturally admire each other when they contribute to each other's lives in meaningful ways, while maintaining individual growth trajectories. When you pursue your goals, nurture your passions, and support theirs without losing yourself in the process, you create a dynamic of mutual admiration. This balance signals that the relationship is a partnership of equals rather than a hierarchy of need or dependency. Emotional regulation, once again, underpins all these behaviors. The capacity to manage your emotions under stress, disappointment, or uncertainty is a key differentiator between respect, worthy partners, and those who must constantly prove themselves. By modeling calm, measured, and emotionally intelligent responses, you communicate that your inner world is stable and that your love is neither fragile nor contingent. This, in turn, creates admiration, trust, and a natural desire to mirror that respect. Nonverbal communication plays an equally critical role. The way you carry yourself, posture, eye contact, tone of voice, and body language subtly communicates self-assurance and value. People are instinctively attuned to these cues. They notice tension, insecurity, and desperation even when words are carefully chosen. A grounded, composed, and confident presence conveys worthiness in a way that nothing else can. Similarly, nurturing empathy and understanding, without losing yourself, elevates respect. True respect emerges when both partners feel validated and acknowledged, yet no one sacrifices their boundaries or self-worth in the process. By holding space for your partner's emotions while maintaining your center, you model the balance of strength and compassion that commands admiration. A practical exercise to integrate these principles is reflection and journaling. Regularly assessing your patterns of attachment, emotional triggers, and boundary enforcement increases self-awareness and reinforces the behaviors that cultivate respect. Awareness allows you to respond to situations from a position of choice rather than compulsion, which is a hallmark of magnetic, respected partners. Finally, it is critical to remember that respect is a long-term product of integrity, not instant performance. It accumulates through consistent, authentic behaviors that communicate stability, intelligence, empathy, and self-possession. It is reinforced in moments of calm, measured response, in consistent boundary maintenance, in balanced presence and absence, and in the steady, quiet demonstration of self-worth. By integrating these practices into your relational life, you create a dynamic where love is naturally complemented by admiration, respect, and deep emotional connection, and where you no longer have to chase, prove, or try too hard. Your presence, your energy, and your self-possession become the silent architects of attraction, forging relationships where love and respect coexist in their most authentic, powerful forms. This is where mastery begins, the space between effort and flow, desire and self-possession, intimacy and independence. Here, love becomes effortless, magnetic, and profoundly respected. As we enter the final phase of understanding how to be respected in love without trying too hard, it is important to recognize that respect is not only emotional, but also deeply intertwined with sexual and intimate dynamics. Sexual energy, when aligned with self, respect, and emotional intelligence, can amplify the magnetic presence that naturally draws admiration and desire. Many people make the mistake of equating sexual availability with love or respect. They assume that giving themselves completely or accommodating every desire will ensure emotional closeness, when in reality, it often diminishes respect. True sexual attraction and respect emerge from a balance of openness and boundaries, desire and self-possession. It's the subtle confidence in knowing your worth and choosing intimacy consciously, rather than reacting to external validation, that transforms sexual connection into a conduit for deeper admiration and emotional reverence. One of the most powerful ways to command respect in sexual intimacy is through conscious presence. Being fully attuned to your partner's needs while simultaneously grounded in your own self-awareness communicates emotional depth, empathy, and mastery. Your energy, tone, and touch become extensions of your inner composure, making every encounter feel intentional, safe, and electrifying. Conversely, overcompensation, performance anxiety, or neediness can break the natural flow of attraction, signaling insecurity rather than confidence. In addition, cultivating sexual self-respect is crucial. This does not imply rigidity or withholding pleasure. Rather, it means knowing your boundaries, desires, and limits, and expressing them clearly. Sexual respect flows both ways. When you honor yourself, your partner unconsciously mirrors that respect. Over time, this mutual understanding fosters a relationship where physical intimacy and emotional admiration coexist harmoniously. Another dimension is the psychological principle of contrast. Humans are wired to notice value in proportion to scarcity and effort. When someone is always available, always yielding, or constantly seeking approval, their presence becomes normalized and the admiration fades. In contrast, demonstrating selective engagement, showing that your energy is precious, and maintaining personal pursuits outside of the relationship heightens perceived value. This principle, applied with authenticity, amplifies both romantic desire and respectful regard. Humor, charm, and subtle playfulness are additional tools that reinforce respect without effort. Light teasing, shared laughter, and a sense of wit communicate intelligence, confidence, and comfort within your own skin. These qualities create a dynamic of ease, fun, and magnetic attraction, while simultaneously signaling emotional stability and self-possession. Importantly, this does not mean manipulation. It is simply an extension of living fully in your own power while inviting connection. Beyond sexual dynamics, there is a profound psychological truth. People respect those who can manage tension and uncertainty without panic. In romantic contexts, challenges, disagreements, and emotional fluctuations are inevitable. Your ability to remain centered, articulate, and composed in these moments creates a deep sense of safety and admiration. Your partner senses that your love and presence are steady, not reactive or contingent, which solidifies respect at a level that words cannot achieve. In long-term relationships, this becomes even more critical. Consistent demonstration of self, respect, emotional intelligence, and independent fulfillment prevents the erosion of admiration that often occurs over time. Couples who maintain individual growth, pursue personal passions, and honor boundaries experience not only sustained desire but also deep, enduring respect. Mutual admiration and sexual fulfillment become natural byproducts of this balance. Another advanced layer is the concept of mirroring and resonance. Respect often deepens when a partner reflects back your energy in a way that feels aligned, validating, and reinforcing. When you project self-possession, emotional clarity, and calm confidence, people naturally mirror these qualities. In essence, your internal state radiates outward, influencing the relational dynamic without conscious effort. In sexual and intimate contexts, this mirroring becomes palpable. Your presence, energy, and boundaries create a space where both partners feel safe, desired, and respected simultaneously. Cultivating these dynamics requires continuous self-work. Regular reflection on emotional triggers, patterns of over-investment, and unconscious attempts to seek validation allows you to recalibrate and return to your centered state. Meditation, journaling, and mindful awareness of relational energy are practical tools to maintain this equilibrium. Over time, your interactions are no longer reactive but proactive, guided by clarity and conscious choice. A subtle but transformative technique is the integration of gratitude and acknowledgement. Recognizing and appreciating your partner without overdoing it, simply valuing their presence, contributions, and uniqueness reinforces respect naturally. The key is sincerity paired with emotional equilibrium. When gratitude flows from a stable self, it uplifts rather than pleads. Similarly, acknowledging your own worth and expressing it gently within interactions signals a balanced and magnetic energy. Perhaps the most profound truth about being respected in love is that it begins and ends with the internal landscape. All external strategies, boundary setting, emotional regulation, presence, sexual self-respect are reflections of inner mastery. If you cultivate your own life with depth, purpose, and authenticity, your relationships become mirrors of your internal integrity. The energy you project, calm, confident, self-sufficient, creates a relational environment where love and respect are inseparable. In conclusion, being respected in love without trying too hard is less about tactics and more about embodiment. It is about living fully in your own value, regulating your emotions, communicating clearly, honoring boundaries, and integrating self-respect into both emotional and sexual intimacy. It is about cultivating a life so rich, a presence so grounded, and a connection so authentic that admiration flows naturally. When these elements converge, you no longer chase love or respect. Instead, you become the magnetic center around which love, desire, and profound admiration revolve. Respect and love, then, is not earned through effort or sacrifice. It is reflected from the alignment of your inner world with the way you engage with the external world. The person who masters this art experiences relationships that are balanced, deeply intimate, and charged with a magnetic energy that cannot be manufactured or faked. In essence, love without desperation, intimacy without compromise of self, and connection without effort creates a life where both partners are free, engaged, and mutually respected. This is the ultimate expression of being truly magnetic, in love, a presence that commands admiration, a love that does not demand validation, and a connection that is both deeply satisfying and profoundly respected.